Hey, how's it going, everybody? In this video, we are going to talk about the U.S. Army retirement plans. So we're going to discuss the old retirement plan, which is known as the HighThree, and the new plan, which is called the blended retirement, or BRS. Let's dive right in. Sorry for the Star Wars looking video. I'm paid for my knowledge, not for my video making skills, right? So, all right, HighThree. This is the current Army retirement system, and this is what's used to calculate a service member's pension. So you take 2.5% and you multiply it by the number of years that service member served before retirement. So let's say 20 for these examples, right? Then you multiply that percentage by your average 3 highest years of your base pay, and those do not have to be consecutive. So for this example, you have your 2.5% times your 20 years, which equals 50%. You take 50% and multiply it by 4,205, and you get $2,103 per month. So that $4,200 was calculated by taking an E6 to an E7's base pay mixed over a 3-year timeline, and that equals to about $151,000. And then we divide that by 36 months, so it equals to 4,200. So yeah, that's how they'll calculate your paycheck every single month for your pension once you retire from the military with the current retirement system. The blended retirement system, for some reason, a lot of people think that your pension is going to completely go away, and that's just not true. So the difference here is it's 2% as opposed to 2.5%. Everything else is the same, right? So we take 2% times the 20 years, and that equals 40% instead of 50. And 40% of 4,200 equals $1,682. So that's about $450 less than the other pension plan. So the check that you'll get every single month during your pension for your retirement will be about $450 less with the new blended retirement system. That being said, there are other benefits that come with the new BRS, and we're going to get into this. So probably the biggest new feature that will come with the blended retirement system is the matching of percentages. So even if you put nothing in, the government's still going to give you a 1% contribution. If you put 5% in, they'll match you 5%. So you'll get a 10% total going into your TSP. And so that will be 10% of your base pay going into your TSP retirement account. It's different from your pension, it's totally separate. If you don't know much about the TSP, we'll get into that later, but this is going to be a huge benefit long term. So the sooner you start this, the better. Some other things is that you're going to get a mid-career bonus anywhere between 8 and 12 years, and it will be something between 2.5 months to 13 months of your base pay, depending upon your MOS and everything like that. You guys know how bonuses work in the military. So, but a perk of that is that you can take it between 1 or 4 installments for tax purposes. So you can get with your tax guy or gal once it comes to that. And then you can also get a lump sum at retirement, and we'll explain that here. So the lump sum is actually a pretty unique addition. You can do a lot of stuff with this. So if you think about it, this can really help you out later on down the road. So 90 days before your retirement, you can choose to accept 25 or 50% lump sum. You don't have to do that. You can do nothing. But you can get that lump sum right away when you retire. So the lump sum will be at a discounted value, meaning that they're going to add the inflation rate to it. So you're not going to get just 25% of what it's currently worth. You're going to get 25% plus the inflation rate, which is pretty cool. So it's obviously subject to the current tax rates, and your monthly pension will be either 75 or 50% respectively. So you're going to retire. Let's say you take a 25% lump sum because you want to pay off your mortgage, right? You don't want to pay mortgage anymore. It's like, boom, too easy. You get 25% of that lump sum for those years, and then you'll get 75% of what your pension would have been until the age of 67. So at 67, it goes back to the full total because that's the actual age of retirement in the United States. So that's why they do that, because they're going to assume that you're going to need that money because you're going to stop working and have other sources of income. So once again, the lump sum can be accepted in 1 or 4 installments for tax purposes, which is pretty good. because the more money, the more income you get, the higher tax bracket you can go into. So if you have a very large lump sum, that could bump you up to your tax bracket and you could end up losing a lot of money. So that is a pretty unique option. All right, so these are some retirement factors. When you're calculating how much money you're going to need, or how you're doing in life and what your retirement's going to look like, these are kind of the basic things that everyone does to get that general idea. So for your costs, you're going to calculate your housing expenses, your transportation expenses, your monthly food, your annual health care, your entertainment, how much you want to travel, etc. Right? All those things. Then you're going to do your income streams. So your pension check, your Social Security, any savings or investments you have, other income from a job or a hobby, or anything else you can think of. So you calculate all that up. Then as far as your pension is concerned, you're going to consider your length of service, or potentially what could happen before you reach those 20 years. So you have to take that risk factor. That's not necessarily a dollar amount. It's more of a mindset or a risk thing. And then your career progression. So are you going to achieve a higher rank? Are you going to switch over to officer or warrant or something like that, which will affect how much you're going to be getting? So take that into effect as well. And then once you've done your math and kind of done a little mini risk assessment, you're going to look at 80% of what your pre-retirement income is, because that's just about what you're going to need to maintain that standard of living during retirement years. All right, so if you want to opt into the new BRS, you can do it after January 1st, which it already is. So you can opt in any day now, as long as you've served less than 12 years active duty, and no one else can opt you in. You're going to have to do it on yourself. So, but once you do it, you cannot go back. So you have to complete the opt-in course on JKO, and then you go on MyPay, and then you're just going to opt into the BRS system as indicated. All right, so now that I kind of explained how they calculate your pensions and some of the benefits of the BRS, let's compare the two, right? Let's give you a basic situation, a fair comparison, and then we'll look at some additional factors that might push you one way or the other, and I'll give you my personal opinion. So the first one is the HighThree. The example goes that you joined at 18 years old and that you're going to retire at 38, so you could just serve 20 years. You put 5% of your base pay into the TSP retirement fund during your entire career, and you live to be 90 years old. So that's the story, right? So in this example, your pension will be giving you $2,100 per month, which equals $25,000 per year, meaning the 52 years that you live after you retire, your pension will end up paying $1.3 million. So then we look at the TSP, right? What are you going to get from that? The way we averaged it was we took the base pay of an E1 all the way up to an E8 at the retirement age and the appropriate years it would take to gain those ranks. And we calculated each year's compounding interest. And then at retirement of 65 years old, that TSP will be worth $239,000. And that was calculated using a very safe 5% annual rate of return. Depending upon what you choose, it would most likely be anywhere between 7 and 8, but we'll get into more of that later. So anyways, the grand total from the day you retire until the day you die, in this example, you will have gotten $1.5 million between your pension and your TSP fund. So, however, if you had waited 5 years, because you can withdraw your TSP at 65, if you waited until you were 70, you could have grown your TSP to $307,000, which is an extra $60,000, $67,000, give or take, right? So at that point, your grand total would have been 1.6 million if you had waited an extra 5 years to take out your TSP, because you don't have to pull it out at 65. You can wait and continue to let it grow. All right. So an alternate situation, a thing to take into consideration, let's say you get injured, right? Or you decide to leave after 8 years. That's the time hack we're going to give this one. What that means is you're not going to get a pension, or you're going to get medical retirement, and your TSP at the age of 65 is only going to be worth $174,000. So come retirement age, that's all it's going to be waiting for you is $174,000. All right, let's compare now the BRS, the new retirement system. So same story, you join at 18, you're retiring at 38, you put in 5% of your base pay into the TSP. However, you're getting that 5% match for your entire career, right? You live to be 90, all the same. So for this pension, it's going to be $1,600 calculated from the first examples, and that will end up being $20,000 per year, and 52 years times the 20,000 will end up being just a little over $1 million. So from just your pension, you'll be making just over a little million. And if you look at the other one, you can see that the current retirement system is just about $260,000 more than that. So $260,000 sounds like a lot of money, but we're talking about a 52-year time span. And there's other things to take into consideration as well, right? So the TSP, we calculated the same exact way as we did the other one. However, obviously he's getting the 10% instead of the 5% match. So at the age of 65, his TSP will be worth $480,000, and that's using the same 5% annual rate of return. So on the new BRS, $480,000 worth in the TSP versus the $240,000. So that's a big difference, right? So back to the BRS. The grand total is going to end up being 1.5 million, just like the other one. So if you take this example, you know, the joined at 18, retired at 38, and you compare the two systems, they're almost identical. By the time that individual dies at 90, they will have both gotten a little over $1.5 million. So the difference here being is if this individual waited an extra 5 years, right? If he pulled his TSP out at 70 instead of 65, his TSP will be worth $616,000, which is basically $135,000 more. So whereas the first one was only $60,000, this one's over $130,000 more. So that's a huge growth if he just waited an extra 5 years to pull out that TSP. So that's a big benefit, right? That's something that makes it stand out. And then of course the alternate situation where the individual gets injured or decides to leave after 8 years. Once again, no pension, or he might have his medical discharge. However, his TSP is going to be worth $348,000. So that's a nice chunk of change. That's a lot extra than the other TSP for the current retirement system. So as you can see, obviously I'm a little biased in my opinions about the BRS because the numbers don't lie. Plus, we're using a 5% annual rate of return. That's pretty safe. Even for the TSP, depending upon which funds you choose, you can get anywhere between 7 and 10% pretty regularly on the annual basis. If you stick to some of the more riskier funds and stuff like that, which we'll get into here in a little bit. So if I had changed that 5% to 7 or even 8%, the BRS would actually outpace the HighThree as far as the grand total is concerned by a considerable amount. But I did not do that because I wanted to give you guys a basic example.